Ichika is a high school boy who just started attending Infinite Stratos Academy, a special academy that trains students to pilot a mechanical suit called Infinite Stratos. Somehow, Ichika is the only boy in the world who can pilot Infinite Stratos, so he becomes very popular at the otherwise all-girls academy. But all the girls shower him with attention. Ichika doesn't appreciate being the only guy in the entire school. Meanwhile, his big sister Chifuyu also teaches at the school as a famous pilot. She is helped by an assistant teacher named Maya. Meanwhile, Ichika has trouble fitting into the academy, which becomes awkward when he finds out his dorm roommate is his childhood friend Hoki, who he has not seen for 6 years. She is angry at him for seemingly forgetting her, but starts to forgive him when Ichika shows he still remembered her after all these years. While Ichika continues to struggle at the academy, HSI classmates want him to be their class representative. The famous British pilot Cecilia disagrees because she beat an instructor in combat during their entrance examinations. After Ichika also tells her that he beat an instructor, she becomes offended and challenges him to a duel to be the class representative, and he will be her servant if he loses. Cecilia brags about her personal that she will use for the duel. But Chifuyu tells Ichika that he'll get his own personal as well. Personal units are rare because their cores are specially made by Dr. Tabane, who also happens to be Hoki's sister. But Tabane is missing, which makes it difficult to make more units. Ichika recognizes he doesn't have much of a chance against Seclia, so he asks Hoki to help train him because she is a famous kendo practitioner. She agrees to train him after other girls express interest in Ichika, although her training is harsh since he never did physical activity before. On the day of the duel, Ichika gets a special called Byakushiki to battle Cecilia and her blue tears. At first, Cecilia easily starts winning by keeping her distance with sniping, but Ichika is able to quickly overcome the distance and use his energy sword. Unfortunately, his sword uses up his shield energy too fast and he loses just as he is about to hit Cecilia, causing him to lose the duel. Since Ichika can improve more, he agrees to more training with Hoki. And although Cecilia won, she is a bit uncertain about how the duel went. Soon Cecilia starts to like Ichika and lets him be the class representative to apologize for acting immature before, as she has started to appreciate his determination. Hoki isn't very happy about this. The next day, Ichika meets Lingyan, a new student from China. They actually knew each other when they were kids, and Lingyan is also the class representative for her class. When Ichika and Lingyan spend time together to catch up, Hoki and Cecilia start to feel jealous. Meanwhile, Lingyan finds out that Hoki is Ichika's roommate, and tries to become his roommate instead, but Hoki refuses to swap with her. Later, Lingyan gets mad and leaves when Ichika can't remember a promise they made when they were kids. She decides to settle their dispute with a match in the upcoming tournament. So, Ichika gets ready for his upcoming fight against Lingyan and her unit called Shenlong. Soon the class tournament starts and Ichika and Lingyan have their planned fight. Although Ichika has improved due to his training, he is outclassed by Lingyan's aerial combat abilities and her greater skill over her is. Ichika tries to utilize the training and advice given to him by his sister Chifuyu and Hoki, and he starts to improve. Suddenly the duel is interrupted when a strange unit attacks the arena. A worried Lingyan tells him the match is cancelled, and orders him to retreat due to the danger. But after Ichika helps her avoid an attack, they agree to work together to keep the invading away from the audience so their classmates can get to safety. While fighting the strange they determine it is actually an unmanned drone called a golem because of the way it acts like a machine. Although Ichika and Lingyan buy time for their classmates, they struggle against the golem, so Cecilia quickly suits up in her own to help them. With Cecilia's help, the three of them are able to beat the golem, but Ichika gets hurt in the process. Later, Ichika finds Lingyan watching over him too closely. She tells him that he was the only one who was injured. Ichika thinks he remembers the promise he had made to Lingyan when they were in elementary school together, but an embarrassed Lingyan changes the subject. Meanwhile, Chifuyu and Maya study the golem together and discover that it was a remote-controlled unit. They also find that it uses a special core that is not one of the 467 cores that are supposed to exist created by Dr. Tabane, and they wonder how this exists and who created it. Later they find out that Hoki has been given her own room, and Ichika pretends not to understand why she is upset about this. Hoki's feelings get hurt and she makes him promise that they will go on a date together if she wins the next tournament. Unfortunately, this eventually gets misheard by their classmates and it becomes a rumor that the winner of the next tournament gets to have a date with Ichika. Meanwhile, Ichika is shocked to discover that another boy seems to have gained the ability to pilot like him, Charles, who is his new roommate. The news of another boy at the school soon spreads, so Ichika has to help Charles escape a lot of girls that want to date both of them. Later at school, Chifuyu decides to have Cecilia and Lingyan improve on their combat by practicing against Maya. But even though the two girls have much newer and more sophisticated as models, they find themselves easily defeated by the assistant teacher. Later at lunch, the girls compete to share their food with Ichika, and although embarrassed, he tells them honestly that Hoki's food is the best, which makes Cecilia and Lingyan very unhappy. The next day, the class gets a surprise transfer student from Germany named Laura. Laura is another famous pilot who is friends with Chifuyu, but when she arrives she slaps Ichika and tells him that she refuses to believe that he is Chifuyu's brother. One day while Ichika is training with Charles, who is in his unit the Raphael Revive, he gets challenged to a duel by Laura and turns down her request to her anger. On his way to his dorm room, Ichika sees Chifuyu standing up to Laura. Laura wants Chifuyu to go back to Germany because she doesn't think the academy is good enough for Chifuyu to teach at. It turns out that in the past Chifuyu had given up an important championship to save Ichika, who had been kidnapped during the event, but her actions may have cost her a promising career. Later, Ichika accidentally walks in on Charles in the shower and realizes that Charles is actually a girl. Charles explains that her family's business was in trouble because of the demand for the third generation models. She was told to act like a boy to get attention for the company, and to steal data from those models. Ichika decides to keep this a secret to keep Charles safe since the academy has special rules for diplomacy, and he doesn't want to create an international incident. Meanwhile, Laura's anger at Ichika reaches a boiling point as Chifuyu continues to insist on staying at the academy. She takes off her eye patch to show her golden left eye, and swears to get revenge on Ichika. Meanwhile, Hoki feels pressure to win the upcoming tournament because of the rumor she accidentally started where the winner gets to go on a date with Ichika. Cecilia and Lingyan are getting ready to practice together when Laura shows up in her unit the Schwarzer region and challenges them to a 2-on-1 fight. Laura proves to be the superior pilot as she easily blocks all their moves and is able to outmaneuver 2 of them. But when she keeps aggressively attacking them to the point they get into real danger, Ichika and Charles arrive to help just in time. Before things can escalate, Chifuyu intervenes and asks that they settle the differences in another tournament. Meanwhile, the next tournament is announced, but the format has been changed to be a tournament fought 2-on-2. Since Ichika needs a partner, he decides to pick Charles. The other contestants draw names randomly to decide on who their partners will be, and Hoki ends up with Laura as her partner, and that their first opponents will be Ichika and Charles. The match starts and Laura exclusively focuses on fighting Ichika while ignoring her partner Hoki. Since Laura doesn't care about anything except attacking Ichika, Charles is able to use her distraction by disabling Hoki. With the resulting battle becoming a 2-on-1, Ichika and Charles use the teamwork they have been practicing to wear down the superior Laura and weaken her shields. The match becomes close when Ichika also uses up all his shield energy to nearly defeat Laura. But right before she is defeated, Laura remembers her past as a failed soldier and how she was inspired by Chifuyu. Now that Chifuyu has changed due to her brother's influence, Laura's mental psyche breaks and she loses control of her which turns into a dark Infinite Stratos with much higher combat capabilities. Charles and Ichika are overwhelmed, so Charles gives the last of her energy to Ichika to allow him to use his energy sword. Ichika is then able to fight the Dark and save Laura. While Laura is recovering, Chifuyu explains the danger of Dark and tells Laura that she needs to find her own path. Since the match disrupted the tournament is cancelled. Then Ichika decides to go on a date with Hoki anyway. Meanwhile, Charles tells Ichika that she's going to try to stay at the school and use her real name Charlotte and no longer pretend to be a boy. But when Lingyan finds out, she goes to confront Charlotte because of how close she has gotten to Ichika. But suddenly Laura arrives and kisses Ichika, shocking everyone as she announces that she is going to marry him. Later, Hoki decides to call her sister Tabane for help, and her sister reveals that she had created a personal unit called Akatsubaki just for Hoki. Meanwhile, the girls try to get Ichika's attention, and he gets beat up by Hoki after Laura sneaks into his room during the night. Ichika decides to go with Charlotte to the mall to buy swimsuits for an upcoming beach study session, but they are followed by Cecilia, Lingyan, and Laura. When Charlotte notices them following her, she hides with Ichika in the dressing room to show off her swimsuit, but they are eventually discovered by Chifuyu and Meyer instead. During the beach study session, each of the girls tries to get close with Ichika, but each of their plans backfire. The students and staff then enjoy a game of beach volleyball. As sunset arrives, Chifuyu talks with Hoki about Tabane, telling her that Hoki's personal will soon arrive with Tabane. Days later, the competition over Ichika heats up as the girls later find Ichika and Hoki together. Meanwhile, Chifuyu talks to them about their feelings for her brother and gives them advice. The next day, the missing Dr. Tabane comes to give them the Akatsubaki, which is a super advanced 4th generation model. But Hoki can practice a lot with her new model. Chifuyu suddenly gets a message from Maya saying an unmanned is called the Silver Gospel, made by the United States, and Israel, is out of control. Chifuyu orders the group to hunt down the rampaging model and stop it. Ichika and Hoki will chase it because they're the only ones with 4th generation models, which are faster than the 3rd generation ones the others have. But Ichika is nervous because this is his first real mission. As Ichika and Hoki start their mission, the others notice that Hoki looks unusually happy, so Chifuyu tells Ichika to pay close attention to Hoki. While they're fighting the Silver Gospel, Ichika sees an illegal fishing ship and goes to protect it. This causes Ichika to mess up the plan they made to beat Silver Gospel, but Ichika scolds her for not caring about the safety of the civilians on the ship. Ichika is also disturbed, because Hoki's is usually much kinder and would normally care about the lives on the ship. Suddenly the Silver Gospel attacks them, so Ichika shields Hoki with his own body. In the chaos, Hoki's hair ribbon gets burned and Ichika gets hurt so badly that he quickly has to be taken in for treatment. Hoki blames herself for their failed mission, and for allowing Ichika to get hurt, and she wants to quit being in his pilot. But the other girls manage to convince her not to quit. They decide to all go together to defeat the Silver Gospel against Chifuyu's orders to wait. While the girls are fighting the Silver Gospel, Ichika has a dream where he gets power from a little girl and a warrior woman. He decides he wants to protect his friends. Meanwhile at the battle, Hoki cuts one of the Silver Gospel's wings, but it comes back with empowered angel wings and defeats the girls. Ichika wakes up from his dream and arrives from the battle with his unit. He wakes up a defeated Hoki, and gives her a new hair ribbon for her birthday, and she starts to cry. Led by Ichika, the girls work together to destroy the Silver Gospel using their different skills. Eventually, they distract the unit enough for Ichika to land a devastating hit that destroys Silver Gospel. Back at the hotel, Chifuyu scolds them for not following orders, but she lets them rest as a reward. Before Tabane disappears again, Chifuyu realizes that Tabane didn't just let Ichika be the only guy at the school by chance. She discovers that Tabane made the Silver Gospel go crazy on purpose to show off the power of her new unit Akatsubaki, and had planned everything all along. Meanwhile at the beach, Hoki apologizes to Ichika for getting hurt, and she confesses to him. Ichika tries to kiss her, but the other girls interrupt because they're jealous and Ichika is forced to carry Hoki to safety. And this is all for this video. Make sure to subscribe if you enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next one.